Good Monday morning, everybody. You know what time it is. If you haven't already, go grab your favorite cup of hot cocoa, a few cookies, pull up a chair, and sit and chat with me a while in today's episode of Cocoa and Cookies. This video turned out to be so long with so much information to cover that we are breaking this up into two parts. So be sure to watch out for part 2 later on this afternoon. Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Cocoa and Cookies. As you can see, I am joined by some very special guests today. We are going to go ahead and do part 3 of the homeschooling series, and I wanted you guys to be able to talk or hear my kids talk about the process of homeschooling from their perspective, because I know some of you are interested in possibly starting homeschool and you're worried about how it's going to affect your kids and what they may think of that. Let me first go ahead and start off by giving you my humblest apologies that this is not live today. My husband and I tried the other night to do a live test run on YouTube, and we could never figure out how to get it all working properly. And yesterday we were extremely busy with our church responsibilities and didn't get a chance to work on that again. So today we're just going to go ahead and record this for you like we always do, and during this week we are going to figure out that process and get Cocoa and Cookies live next Monday morning at 10 o'clock. So I do apologize for that. I hope not many of you were sitting there with your cocoa this morning at 10 o'clock waiting for us. I felt so bad about that. But at any rate, we are going to go ahead and get this filmed. Some of you guys had sent in some questions for the kids, and I'm going to let them answer you guys honestly. I don't remember, did I read these questions to you guys? I did. I couldn't remember if I actually read the questions to them or not, if they've had time to think about it or not, but I'm not going to coerce them in any way. I want both of you to be as honest with your answers as you possibly can, whether they seem negative or positive. It doesn't matter, because they want to hear from a student's perspective how it has affected you guys with homeschooling. So I think we're just going to jump right on in with the questions, and then we can kind of elaborate with that. If you're not sure where we are in this process, go back and look at last week's Cocoa and Cookies. That was part 1, and then part 2 of the homeschooling is labeled, I believe, Homeschooling 101 part 2 or something like that. You'll find it on the playlist of all the videos, and then you can kind of catch up to speed. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right on in with these questions. I'm going to pull them up on my phone and see what you guys wanted to know from the kids as far as their view of homeschooling. So the first question comes from Daisy, and I'm going to start with you on this one, and then you can answer and tell what each of you think, because you're a girl, you're a boy, and girls and boys sometimes view things a little differently. You are very much a social director. If you've never done the study on personalities, I have a teaching on that. There are 4 main personalities, and he would be what I would consider very much a social director, and he loves to just have fun no matter what he's doing. He's the one that when he was smaller, if I would tell you to like pick up a baseball bat out of the living room and go put it in your room, you would like pretend to hit baseballs all the way down the hallway because he was going to have fun. Where she is very much more a steward. She is the more taking care of people, nurturing people, and that kind of stuff. And so if I told you to pick up a baseball bat, you would just pick it up and go put it up. So they're different in their personalities, and that obviously is going to cause them to view their homeschooling experience through different eyes. So I want each of you to answer all of the questions from your own perspective, okay? Okay, so our very first question comes from Daisy. She actually has a couple of questions for you guys. The first one that she asks is, do you feel that you have missed out on anything?
I guess it really depends on what you mean by anything. But as far as like our involvement in sports, we were always allowed to if we chose to because of the law in our state. So we didn't miss out on playing sports at a high school. We never chose to because it didn't interest us.
But you did when you were young.
Well, when we were young, yeah, but like not in high school or anything. But we could have been a part of our high school sports teams.
You did soccer, and you did soccer, and you did football, and you did flag football. Yeah, so y'all have had the social aspect as far as sports is concerned.
Yeah, just not as we got older. But as far as socializing or the involvement in a classroom, because our school, the way we do our school is so different since we're on a video class, we really do kind of get the class aspect of it, and we have a lot of friends as it is through church and different activities like that. So I don't really know that I'd say we missed out on anything per se, because public schoolers may have missed out on stuff that we have enjoyed.
Okay. And what about you?
No, because we basically did everything that kids did in school, just at home.
Okay. And one thing that I'll say about that, from a parent's perspective, is that the socialization is a huge one. I mean, I can remember times whenever you guys were little. I don't know if y'all will remember this or not. But during the school day, when kids would typically be at school, we would run up to the grocery store or whatever, Dollar Tree, and we were in there, and some of the older ladies would see, we would actually have people stop, well, shouldn't they be in school? I mean, like, nosing in your business. It's like, even if you should be, it's frankly none of your business, but that's just how people do. And so I would have people come up to me, shouldn't they be in school? And I'd say, well, we homeschool, yada, yada. Well, aren't you worried about their socialization? And I got this so many times. You guys ever remember that? You remember that? And this is how I feel about that. I don't send, or would not send, my kids to school to learn how to socialize. That's not what school is. School is not about socialization. School is about education. And so if I'm going to get my kids up every day and send them off to school, whether it's public school or private school or whatever, I'm sending them there to learn how to add 2 + 2 or to learn how to read cat or whatever. I'm not sending them there to learn to socialize. And if that is your thought about school and socialization is the main thing, then you've missed the point altogether, in my opinion, with what education should be. And you're taking a huge risk, in my opinion, because the socialization in school, I mean, this is where kids learn to sneak out of class and smoke dope in the hallways. And, all the stuff that goes on, which I could go into all of that, and this video is not about all of that, but to me, socialization is learned best when children watch their parents socialize, whether it's in a store setting, if it's in a church setting, if it's in your neighborhood setting, wherever you are where you're interacting with people, that is socialization, not the few hours a day you should be being educated. So to me, the social aspect should be the least of a concern.
I think another thing is that because when you're a homeschooler, especially when you're younger, like it doesn't so much now that I'm older, but when you're younger, you already feel a little weird because you're not like everyone else. Even though you're still getting the same education, sometimes even better, you're not doing what all the other kids are doing by going to school every day. So when people come up and ask you, well, aren't you worried about socialization or don't you feel weird? It makes you as the student feel even more abnormal. So if you want to sincerely ask those questions, I would say go to a parent, or if it's a co-op, go to the teacher who teaches the co-op, because it makes the kid feel more self-conscious.
Yeah, and I think that can go across the board with everything, not even just homeschooling, but some of the wacky things people say to kids and teenagers. It's just, it could definitely add an extra stress. So that's a good point. So I'm glad we're handling it in this kind of environment, because you're right. A lot of kids, they do feel strange about it. Let's answer that question. That's not one that was sent in, but did you ever feel weird, like something was wrong with you because you weren't allowed to go to school? Did it make you feel like, wow, our family's just really a whacked out family? Or like, did you ever have those thoughts when you were young, or were you just young and this was normal, so it didn't
Well, when you were younger, it felt a little weird, almost kind of like you weren't like everybody else. Because they would come back from school saying that they did all this stuff, and then you couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so that did make you feel a little weird when you were younger. But now that we've gotten older, it really doesn't feel any different from what the other kids did now.
Okay. And what about for you? Did it make you feel like you were just strange? There was something wrong with us because we weren't like everybody?
I don't know that I felt that there was something wrong with us, but because it's so important for kids to fit in, that's something really major that kids go through. It does make you feel a little strange, like, well, why don't I get to go to school with everybody else? Or you just feel different.
You feel like the oddball
yeah,
in the group.
you feel like you stand out a little bit.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, it really doesn't bother me because homeschool has progressively gotten wider and more accepted. But when we were younger, it really wasn't that common for homeschoolers to be homeschooled, so it felt weird when we were kids.
Mm-hmm. So how did you deal with those kind of feelings? Was it like an embarrassing thing? And I mean, like did it affect your self-esteem, those kind of things? Do you just like kind of let it roll off your back? Because we would talk about that whenever you guys would bring that up. Well, Mom, they get to do that, and we tried to help you guys through that the best that we could to help you understand on an age-appropriate level. But do you feel like it did affect your esteem?
I don't really think so.
Okay, and what about you?
No.
Okay. Now, the next question that Daisy has for you guys is, do you wish you would have maybe not been homeschooled and gone to a public school instead?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
Okay, and why? When you were little, did you ever wish that?
Yeah.
Okay, and what was the reason why when you were small that you wished that?
Mainly when you'd watch like the movies and stuff like that, you'd see them do all this fun stuff at school and stuff like that, and you would never be able to get to do it.
Okay.
But now that we're older, now everything is wacko in school. Now I wouldn't want to.
Okay, and what
As
is
a
that?
kid, you felt like you were missing out on something that was so normal. But as I've gotten older and like going to public high school campuses to visit my friends and see them do stuff, I would never choose to be in public school. I would always choose to be homeschooled.
Okay, and so that brings us to a good point that I had brought up last week in the Cocoa and Cookies, that when you're little, as a child, you don't see things through a great perspective because you're not fully maturely developed enough yet. And when you get older, obviously perspectives change. And that's what I was trying to explain to you guys last week, is that as a parent, it is up to you to make the best choice for your children. They may not understand it and they may not like it when they're very small. They may not understand that it is for their betterment. But as you grow, then you come to realize and see that. And looking back with the perspective, it's like, oh, okay, I'm really glad. Mm-hmm. Would you say that that's true?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we did try to make things as normal as we could. We had other homeschooling families. We did some field trips, called up the local newspaper, and you guys got to do a behind-the-scenes tour through there and watch them make the whole newspaper and print it out, and that was kind of cool. And a lot of public schoolers never get to do stuff like that. And so, even though you did miss out on some of the field trips and activities, there were a lot of other activities that we were able to create because we were a smaller group that we were able to do that a classroom from a school couldn't do. And even things like going to SeaWorld or Disney World when they take class trips. Of course, we've always done that as a family, and we've always done it during the middle of the week because they're less busy. So if any of you are planning a trip to Florida to the theme parks, come during the weekdays because it's not as busy as the weekend.
Except
so
in the summer, it's just
except during the summer, and it's just busy all week long. But so that's a great point that I think that if we could convey to you guys, is that don't let your small children make their own decisions. They don't know how to do that. They're not developed enough to do that. That's your job as a parent, to get the education and to get all the facts of any circumstance, and then make the best choice for your kids. And they will see the benefit of it later on in life, even if they may not like it right away. So So that's a good point. All right. The next question from Daisy is, would you homeschool your kids in the future?
Yes.
Yes.
And what would be the reason you would choose that? Because I can remember when you were little, you would say, I'm never homeschooling my kids. So what made you change your mind?
Well, I think because you really do get a better education at home. Like, I've had friends tell me that they would be in public school and the teachers would either let them have open book tests or the teachers would give them the answer themselves, because it looks good if you have good grades from your classroom. So they didn't really care if the kids knew it. They just wanted it to look good on them. And so you also have to learn to be disciplined yourself, because especially in high school, for us, we have teachers on video, but for the most part, we're almost teaching ourselves, and we have to do our own homework, write our own papers and stuff like that, and even take the tests by yourself. So you really have to stay on top of it, make sure you're keeping up with all your work yourself.
Okay. And what about you? Would you homeschool your kids?
Yeah.
And what? But you've always said that.
Yeah.
Even when you were little, you were like, when I get married, my wife is schooling our kids. And so why have you always felt that way?
I guess because I've always liked it myself. And especially now, I wouldn't. And if we couldn't homeschool, then I would definitely do like private school if that was the last option.
All right. Very good. Okay, so that's all the questions from Daisy. And so let's see what other questions that we had here. We had a question from Linda. She asks, do you feel like you've ever missed out on events or other social activities?
I think we basically kind of already answered that. No, not really.
Yeah, we kind of answered that. But the social aspect, tell them a little bit how you felt about, because you had a lot of social activities with your church. You would go camping with the Royal Rangers. We've been camping with the girls through the missionettes, and the parties and all the festivities with that. So I feel like you guys had a lot of social interaction as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
And now that you're older, because we are youth pastors at our church, and the friends that you guys have now, we've actually been to some of their events at the school. And you guys have gotten to participate as far as that aspect of it. You know, we've been to the school during the daytime to participate with some of their club activities. You know, so it's not like they've never been exposed to the school or never been able to participate in those types of activities, because you have been able to do that with your friends who would go to the school there. So, okay. Let's see. She also asked, how do you feel about the whole homeschooling process?
What do you...
Like staying home and having to get up during the day, maybe be by yourself, the amount of hours that you have to study and that kind of stuff, like the whole day of homeschooling. How do you feel about that?
I like it because it's almost kind of shorter.
Okay.
If you're at public school, you don't have to go as long. You can do your own schedule, wake up when you want. If you want to wake up at 1, if you did a lot of stuff the day before, then you can get done by 5 or 6, and so and you don't have to stay at school, wake up at a certain time. If you're tired, you can just sleep in.
Okay, what about you?
I think the same thing, basically.
Yeah, I can remember times whenever our little neighbors would be in school whenever you guys were younger, and y'all would be like at the window back here watching out the back, waiting for them to get home so you could play, because their school was already done. And we would talk about it then, you know, and I would say, see, if you guys were in school, you wouldn't even get to be home yet, you know. So as far as that's concerned,